Okay, the rally continues. We saw that with futures yesterday on a rally. Trump said no intention of firing Powell. And I told you it's just an excuse to push prices down so the institutions can buy on the cheap. Make this, oh, Trump's going to fire Powell. Oh, no. I told you it wasn't going to happen. And again, it's not. And we had the Dow up 1%. The Dow was up nearly 420 points, up just over 1%. The S&P was up 1.6%. Now, again, the S&P was up over 3% at the highs. It didn't close there. Had to get a bullish reversal of conditions today. It didn't do it. I'll show you that. We were still 88 points, 1.67%. The NASDAQ was up 2.5%. The Russell was up just over 1.5%. The VIX, which predicted this rally correctly on Monday, the VIX was up over 10%. It predicted we were going to have a rally, a bounce or a bottom Tuesday or Wednesday. And again, we got it on Tuesday and it's continuing on Wednesday. VIX got it right again. Down nearly 7% today, down to 28.45, down 2.12. So we get a rally, but we end well below the session highs, possible topping tails. Watching our gaps now to see what happens. Do we go back and fill the gaps? So we had the futures rally, the market gapped higher. Trump saying he has no intention of firing Powell. We had the Treasury Secretary talk about de-escalation, and we will see de-escalation in the very near future in the U.S. and China. That rally yesterday surrounding that. Treasury Secretary Bessent further encouraging markets, but then kind of dashing hopes. There's opportunity for a big deal here. His comments to business leaders yesterday also encouraging Wall Street that this is going to get resolved in the short term, that there's going to be escalation, as the Treasury Secretary said yesterday. Wall Street retreated off of the highs, though, after the Treasury Secretary. There are no changes as of yet. So again, Wall Street is getting the rally of hope that I talked about. Again, we've likely carving up a higher low, eventually going to reach that 200-day moving average, as we just had Bitcoin do, and overthrow it. The stock market is likely going to follow Bitcoin's lead. So while the Treasury Secretary is making some positive remarks and hopeful of a de-escalation and some kind of deal being hammered out, he's saying that no offer has been made yet to reduce the tariffs. So Wall Street did not like that. And so that's why we moved off of the highs of the session. Now, the rally came with the gap higher here on the S&P 500 daily chart. We're actually up over 3% at the highs. We ended up closing 1.67% higher, so gave it back, got a little bit of a topping tail. Now we need to be watching the gap. We did get a green bar here. Again, we could be confirming a confirmation of a higher low and eventually making our way back to the 200-period moving average, back towards horizontal resistance. If we do that, you've got the possibility of an inverse head and shoulders pattern that again could end up forming. Tried to flip the cloud intraday, but we couldn't do it at the close. We gave it back, and you couldn't do it. We still may. We couldn't do it by the close here on the S&P 500 daily chart. The Dow tried the same thing. It couldn't do it by the close. We stalled. We tried to get above the 20 period, the blue line here. We stalled. We're back above the 10, but we're stalling here at the 20, failing to get the bullish reversal of conditions. Got to see that happen to turn it around, turn momentum around. NASDAQ did the exact same thing. We had the rally. Ended up closing higher. We were up 2.28%, up about 416 points. We didn't close at the highs, and we gave back much of the rally. Gapped higher, back above the 10 period, back above the 20 period, but we're not seeing the bullish reversal of conditions yet. We didn't flip the cloud. We did on an intraday basis, but it didn't close that way. You got to see that happen. So now we'll be watching these gaps. You did get some green bars here. If we can continue and try to flip it tomorrow, see momentum officially shift. But right now, we've struggled to do it. After having done it on an intraday basis, it ended up failing, at least so far. please support the channel with the link directly below. It allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel today. Follow the link below to take you to a secured site and you can donate any amount you want or make it a recurring donation. If you do that, I thank you. Please consider helping out today. We get a candle of indecision on the VIX. Again, the VIX predicted this rally 3 days ago with that move that we had of greater than 10%. VIX drops below 50. The S&P getting a much bigger rally if we drop below 50 and stay below it. Again, the S&P can get a higher low and a higher high, and we could again gravitate towards the 200 period moving average and the 50 on the, as the 50 crosses below, we could gravitate up towards those levels. We have gaps to fill, and again, you've got the possibility of that inverse head and shoulders as I've been talking about in each video. If we come up here to the 50, the 200, we get a massive rally or even overthrow it. As I said, a powerful rally. Again, we could even just blow right past this level and not set up that pattern if we get another historical rally on our hands. So we'll be watching that. But a candle of indecision on the VIX. Again, dojis could be continuation of reversal patterns. If we continue, we'll be watching, do we drop below the 50 period moving average on the VIX? The VIX correctly predicted this rally, telling us that we either have going to get a bounce or a bottom. So this is either a bounce or a bottom, giving us a higher low, one or the other. That's the message that the VIX gave us 3 days ago. Correctly predicting this rally, we need the evidence. Do we get a bounce? Is it a bounce or is it a bottom? Again, Bitcoin got that explosive move higher. Again, got the 10 above the 20 period moving average, got above the 50. Broke the downward trend line. NASDAQ tried to do that today, but confirmed a double bottom and getting above this area, moved back into the trading range above the January low. We're likely going to see the market do the same thing. It's getting above the 200. That's the black line right here. And while it could backtest that level, could backtest or even backtest the trend line, again, you're getting above the cloud. The cloud's turning green. You're getting above the 200, and you're getting above horizontal resistance and confirming what likely is a double bottom here. Seeing the divergences on the RSI and the MACD play out. MACD is positive, so the market is likely going to follow Bitcoin. Bitcoin has clearly broken out. Bitcoin's back above the 10, 20, and 50 period moving average. The 20 is about to cross above the 50 in a bullish realignment of the moving averages, and maybe we pull back, but you've had an explosive move higher. The stock market followed Bitcoin down. It's likely going to follow Bitcoin back up. Divergences are, again, marking a bottom and a reversal, whereas the bearish divergences up here marked the tops. They're at the January and the December highs. Again, the bullish divergence is marking the bottoms here in March and again in April. Just know, again, the market is likely going to follow Bitcoin. Bitcoin's had a catapult higher here off 74,000. It went up here again into the mid 90,000 range now. It's paused for a breather, but it is clearly broken out above horizontal resistance and the declining trend line. S&P and NASDAQ are likely going to do the same. We got to see the S&P flip signals back to bullish. We got to see the red go away and the trend begin to change. We got to see S&P signals all begin to turn back to bullish. And we need to see a test of the 200 period moving average. With the rally, we are seeing momentum try to turn here, but you got to flip everything to green. Seeing a little bit of that here. Can we confirm a higher low? Watching the gaps. I'll be watching, can the rally continue? Can we build upon it? Trump pause or reduce the tariffs? We're not only getting positive comments, from the Treasury Secretary, but also even from Trump. Trump's considering reducing the tariffs. I've been telling you this is going to happen. Apparently, he's been talking to China behind the scenes. I mean, that's clear. I think the zero hedge story from last week was correct. He's saying Tuesday, he said they can come down substantially. Going to have a fair trade deal with China. So again, speculation I've been warning you about is that he could reduce them and pause them, good faith, if the Chinese agree to come to the negotiating table, and the market can have a massive rally in this. I've been predicting it. I've been attacked, saying there's no possible way this can happen. All kinds of names being so stupid that I could possibly believe that that can happen. But yet, again, the herd, I'll believe it's not going to happen. It's going to happen. And again, well, that sounds rational to me. Well, the herd is not rational. I've had darts thrown at me for saying that. I mean, it gets very bearish at bottoms, extremely bearish. They see no hope, no way out of this. I'm telling you, this is likely going to be the thing that gives us a massive rally. And again, it may be announced, today, tomorrow. It could be announced any time, this week, next week, but I think it's about to happen. Trump is suggesting that with what he said on Tuesday. I'm going to be proven correct about China. Trump reducing or pausing the tariffs. Said he was going to do it with the reciprocal tariffs because he did it with Canada and Mexico, and he did it back in 2018. He was negotiating tariffs back then. Stands to reason he's going to do it. Keep the tariffs in place. We're going to see a massive rally of hope. This is all going to get worked out. It's going to calm down, and you're going to see a massive rally of hope. And again, we're going to see what happened with Bitcoin. You're going to see it with the stock market. It's going to happen. It could happen before the weekends here. You're already possibly starting to see the rally of hope in the last 2 days as the VIX correctly predicted. Now here's the S&P 500 60-minute. Again, we came up right up to that 200 period moving average. Again, I told you we were likely going to set up a higher low and rally up to that area. Got to get above it and then get that 50 back above the 200. We've already seen that with Bitcoin in the 4-hour time frame, which is very close to the 60-minute time frame for Bitcoin, which trades around the clock. We've seen it already, the bullish cross with the Bitcoin ETF. I'll link my latest Bitcoin video, which you can see the Bitcoin ETF at the end of this video. Short Bitcoin video, and I show those intraday charts. Again, do we have a possible leading diagonal, or again, is this a wave 1 and a 2, and we're now going to see 3, 4, and 5 carve out here? Scenario, again, I brought it up to the first minor wave. If we've completed wave A, B, and C, I've brought it up to this resistance area right here. You got the possibility of an inverse head and shoulders pattern that I've talked about if we see that happen, and then we can form the right shoulder with a wave 2. But going to have to play out that way. In my daily, on my daily chart, I had the rally going much higher, and again, more of a slanted neckline if that pattern does in fact set up. But right here, some gaps. We've got the gap right here. We've got today's gap right here. So again, we'll be watching. Didn't draw that very straight. Sorry. We'll be watching these gaps. Do these gaps fill, or are they gap and goes? Today's gap higher. Again, you want to be watching. Is it a gap and go where we gap and we just keep going? We don't fill these gaps. The gap and fill where we come back, we fill the gap, or maybe this other one, but we fill the gap and then hit the cloud and then resume the advance. Is it a gap and fill, or is it a gap trap, you gap higher, and then you begin to move in the other direction? Is it a gap and go where we just keep going, don't fill the gap, gap and fill where we fill the gap and then resume the advance? Or is it a gap and trap where we gapped higher and we turn the other direction? Again, I told you we were going to come up to this 200 period moving average for a test. We're likely to overthrow it and probably, again, carve out a bottoming process here. Stock market's eventually going to follow Bitcoin higher, getting the rally, just like we got the rally over here. Remember, before we had this surge with on Trump's... Sorry about that. I had to take a phone call real fast. The daily chart, I have it higher, but regardless, whether we come up into horizontal resistance or whether we go beyond it and get some kind of slanted neckline, if the pattern does in fact set up. But right here, I've just got it coming up into this horizontal area and then pulling back and possibly setting up that inverse head and shoulders pattern. So we'll see if that does in fact set up or not. But I do think you have a good shot at a bottom, as I've talked about, with the ABC move completing intermediate wave 4. And if so, then we're starting this wave 1, this minor wave 1, the smaller subwaves for intermediate wave 2. Like I said, if Trump ends up announcing that he's pausing the tariffs or reducing them, we could just see the S&P blow right past this area and catapult higher. Whether an inverse head and shoulder sets up or not, we'll see. But again, really get a big rally should that be announced here this week. We got a really good possibility that there's going to be a pause of those tariffs or a reduction of those tariffs in the very near future. Read told again, there's no possible way that's going to happen. Heard, didn't believe it. We're seeing this rally now, a rally of hope, as I've been predicting about that, but Heard didn't believe it was possible. They didn't believe the tariffs were going to be paused on the very launch day, which again, I talked about that bottoming process there. Here's a daily chart. Now, the sell-off today did not take out the dotted red line. Again, you need to take out the dotted red line in order to invalidate the bearish count at 5504.65. We didn't do that. We rallied back up to just under that area. We got a topping tail. We got a shooting star candlestick, which, again, is possibly a reversal bar that could fill the gap, give us a gap and trap rather than a gap and go. We'll see what happens. But again, you got a couple of gaps now to be watching on that intraday chart. We have two gaps over Tuesday and Wednesday. This count right here, again, I have a 5-leg push higher. This count suggests that wave 4 is done, that we've got an ABC move for that, and we're now setting up a higher low, and again, that will eventually complete our first minor wave. Now here again, on the other example, I had it coming up to this area here. I have it overthrowing it and going towards the 100 period moving average. Again, we could see a big powerful rally if Trump does end up pausing or reducing the tariffs, and we do see formal negotiations announced in the U.S. and China. Be watching to see what becomes of this candle and this pattern here. Again, if we can continue the rally and this candle fails as a topping tail, then we can get a bullish reversal of conditions and go higher. And again, it may be see a massive rally if Trump ends up pausing or reducing the tariffs on China this week. That very well give us a massive rally. Now here, I've marked this as a wave 1. With the higher low scenario completing, having already completed intermediate wave 4, that we're now in minor wave 1 of a 5-leg push higher, and you can see that 5-leg push higher here. And the angle of ascent, again, this is a drawing. Again, the angle can change. It can be over time. It could play out that we go parabolic. Bitcoin certainly is at the moment. Already overthrown the 200 period, and that's why I drew this, that we could end up seeing a test of the 200 and even overthrow it. We're not supposed to have this rally. The rally we've had over the last 2 days, we were told wasn't going to happen. The bears told us, no way. The herd said, possible. You had Kramer running around at the bottom telling us we were going to have Black Monday and, the Black Monday crash, 1987 all over again. That was a 25% crash in one day, by the way, if you don't know that. Everybody started repeating what Kramer said and all over the place. People got really bearish, and we had a rally, went the other direction. We had that historic rally where we went up 9.5% in one day on the S&P 500. One of the best days in history. Everybody was saying we were going to crash. We're probably going to see something very similar to that. Let me just bring that up a little closer here so you can see it. We're probably going to see something very similar to that when Trump pauses the tariffs or reduces them. We're probably going to see a massive rally. I think you're going to be headed up to this 250 as we've gotten the death cross. Often the death cross can be associated with a bottom just before it, which we've had with our hollow red candlestick, sometimes just after it. Bitcoin just had the death cross and it marked the bottom. Now it's above the 200 period moving average, and it got a breakout of a double bottom pattern. Again, you can watch my Bitcoin video at the end of this one. Just had a Bitcoin update today, so you can see my latest Bitcoin video. Watch and see, will we invalidate this count? Now, again, got a topping tail. The candlestick means nothing unless you get confirmation and a follow through. Then we have those gaps that we saw on the 60-minute chart. The bears need a push below this level. We have a 3-leg push down here. This is corrective. I still believe this is a corrective move. In order to have topped, we need a 5-leg push lower and then rally back up and get a 3-leg push back up for a lower high. That would be the top is in. You could still end up pushing lower. It's becoming less likely, but I think you could still push a lower and still have an extended wave 3. Remember, the Nasdaq's already invalidated the bearish count. The S&P hasn't done it yet. You got to close above the dotted red line to do that, but possible. Right here, we are still below this level right here, which is possibly a 1, 2, 3, a 4, and then we get a 5 for an extended wave 3. Even if we move lower, again, I think that count is becoming less likely, but it's still a possibility until signals turn back to bullish with momentum. I think we're going to see what happened with Bitcoin happen with the S&P, where we're going to get the 10 as it's starting to turn up, getting back above that 20 period. And again, if this candle doesn't get confirmed, or if we just go back and fill the gap and then resume the advance, again, we could establish a higher low, and then we need a higher high. We need to be able to push above this level, and we try to do it intraday, but you need a higher low and a higher high, and to be able to invalidate the bearish count getting above 5504. And the rally could take us on into the summer or on into the early fall. It can go on into July, August, September, depending on how quickly we get up to new highs to form a 5-leg push higher, assuming that we have only completed a 3-leg push lower, that we can't get a 5-leg push lower. And even if you get it, it's still possibly an extended 3. But the NASDAQ, like I said, has already invalidated the count, so I think the odds are starting to favor that the bottom is in on the S&P 500. Now, again, here's a bearish count. Invalidation would be a push above this 5504 area. We didn't do that today. We didn't do that previously. We got a topping tail at the 20-period moving average. So again, if we come back down, still the risk of taking out the slow for a deeper retracement or trying to push lower. The bearish count would say that we have a 5-leg push lower. Now, again, NASDAQ is already invalidated by pushing above this area right here. So again, the 5-leg push lower would be a 1, a 2, a 3, maybe a 4 here, and then a 5. If that ends up happening, say we push down and we come down to the 200-week moving average, as I've talked about in the weekly time frame, then you got to get a ABC for the rally back up for a lower high. You got to stop making new highs, and you have to have a 3-leg rebound back up and have a 5-leg push lower. Now, NASDAQ's already invalidated it, so will S&P eventually invalidate it. But nevertheless, you got a topping tail here. Again, the candlestick is meaningless unless it gets confirmed. And maybe the topping tail is just that we fill the gap, and that's it. So we'll see what happens with that. Does this low hold here? And can we get back above 5504, the dotted red line? And can we make a move back towards the 5200? If Trump does up pausing or reducing the tariffs, as I think he's going to, we're going to see that happen very soon, get a massive rally. So we'll be watching the gaps, as we talked about on the 60-minute chart. We'll be watching this low to see if it now can hold as a higher low. With the NASDAQ came right up to the 200 period, just like the S&P. Again, you're likely going to back and eventually fill these gaps. We could overthrow it, or we can pull back and try to fill some of these gaps. Again, you've got the gap here. You've got the gap from today. So again, we'll be watching these gaps. Do we establish this as a higher low now? And again, if we can clear this area, we can get the 50 back above it. Again, I believe Trump announces a pause or reduction of the Chinese tariffs, that they're going to formally move into negotiations. I think you're going to get a massive rally. If this is a wave 1 and 2, the wave 3 could take us higher than the levels that I'm even talking about. Again, the previous peak over here or just beyond it towards those 200 periods in the daily time frame. I mean, we could get a massive, massive rally, something similar to what we had over here, where, I mean, it's just an explosive move higher. I continue to say we're going to get this rally of hope. It's already happening. Seen that the last 2 days, a rally of hope. Bitcoin's had an explosive move higher off of the low, gotten above the 200 period, had a confirmation of a double bottom. The stock market do the same thing, and again, if we get an explosive move higher, you got the possibility of these inverse head and shoulder patterns. You know, Bitcoin got a double bottom pattern. We could see inverse head and shoulders set up on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Stock market follow Bitcoin down. It's likely going to follow Bitcoin back up, and Bitcoin had a breathtaking rebound. But I'll be watching. Do we clear the 200 period? Do we come up to these gaps? Do we come up to this area and overthrow it, or come up to it and get the inverse head and shoulders or get a slanted neckline. We'll be watching to see how it goes. Like I said, listen carefully. We could just blow right past this and not set up an inverse head and shoulders if we get a massive rally, an explosive move higher if Trump announces that here before the week ends, which I think is still very, very possible. NASDAQ had that extreme on the RSI like the S&P. We came back up to the trend line. We tried to get above it here. We failed. We came back now. We've gotten a higher low. We're doing it again. Tried to get above it, but we got a black candlestick and it failed, at least so far. So again, we'll be watching. We're here pushing above the 20 period. Can we remain above it? Does the rally continue? Do we fill these gaps or not? Does this 10, which is turning up now, get above that 20? That's what Bitcoin did. Again, 10 above the 20, and then a few days later, we had the explosive move higher. So again, the stock market is likely going to follow Bitcoin's lead. Again, I'll be watching the 50 and the 200 up here on NASDAQ and the cloud. Bitcoin came up to these levels, eventually blew past the 200 period moving average, and it confirmed a double bottom pattern, getting back above the cloud. We'll be watching to see NASDAQ and S&P follow Bitcoin's lead. I think that that's going to be the case. They followed Bitcoin down, followed Bitcoin back up. And again, we've reached these extremes on the RSI and the MACD. MACD has failed to cross over. The bears would need a push lower and then to have it cross over to form a divergence, and that would be going down to those 200-week moving averages. Again, we've moved beyond the low over here. We've already overlapped right there with the explosive 12% rally surrounding the pause of the reciprocal tariffs on the launch date, and we've already invalidated this as a wave 4 because wave 1 and wave 4 can't overlap. I didn't draw that very straight, but it did overlap right there. Well, we get above that level again, S&P is likely going to do it as well and invalidate the bearish count. Again, it's likely we've completed a 3-leg push lower. We do go lower. We have those 200-week moving averages directly below this low. As I've talked about, 2023, the sell-off, we never reached it. 200-week moving average is major support in the weekly time frame. So I'll be watching these moving averages, the 50, the 200, the 100 period moving average in the cloud. Should we be able to resume the advance, we'll be looking at the gap fills. You got the same thing as I mentioned on that 60-minute chart, the gap fills just like on the S&P 500. And then we'll be watching our low right here, where we got a low tiny bottoming tail here in the daily time frame. Quickly, the bearish count on NASDAQ would be we've already topped. You need a 5-leg push lower for that. We don't have that so far. We have a 3-leg push lower. So again, we'll be watching that here in the weekly time frame. Count says we've already topped. You got to have a 5-leg push lower, and you get a 3-leg push higher back up. It's a bullish count. The bullish count says on NASDAQ we've had a 3-leg push lower, came down to horizontal support. We're bouncing. And again, the 3-leg push lower is going to be followed by another 5-leg push lower. That's, again, likely going to take us into the summer or on into the fall. We haven't topped yet. We're going to get one more 5-leg advance. The 200-week moving average, we didn't reach it. That's this black line right here, just under horizontal support on the 2021 peak on the NASDAQ, which we bounced off of. So if we do go lower, the 200-week moving average is major support. We are bouncing off, though, off of key horizontal support with our low from a couple of weeks ago in early April. Remember, I talked about when we are moving to that launch date that we could possibly see the launch date be a bottom. Sell the rumor by the news event. So far, that low's holding, so we'll be watching that. This is the NASDAQ weekly chart. That's up for the week right now, 2.38% so far. We'll get a bigger rebound and a massive rally if we end up having Trump pause the tariffs. It would create more certainty, pausing the tariffs like he did already. The reciprocal tariffs, the nations are, the countries are now coming to the negotiating table. But doing it with China would give the market great hope, and that's why I keep saying we're getting a rally of hope, and it's likely already begun. I predicted that before we ever had this week's rally and before we ever had the rally from 3 weeks ago when we were testing these lows. I talked about the bottom before Trump paused the tariffs on the launch day. The Dow came to just above that 200-week moving average. Again, the risk is we still go down to those 200 periods, but again, we have on the Dow also bounced up major horizontal support again from the 2022 high, and again, possibly completing a wave 4 Dow weekly chart. Now here's a bearish count on the S&P 500. This count says that we've peaked. Again, you need a 5-leg push lower for that. We're bouncing off horizontal support here. And again, you get your 200-week moving average directly below. This count would say that we're forming a wave 1 and that we go back up, and we make a lower high and a 3-leg push higher, that we get a 5-leg push lower. We don't have a 5-leg push lower right now. You've got a 3-leg push lower. So again, the bulls have more work, or the bears have more work to be done if that's going to be the case. I think that we are still going to see the S&P go make new highs to complete the topping process. For the month, we're trying to get a massive bottoming tail. And again, I told you earlier in the month, we could see a hammer if we rally back up. Hammer here in the monthly time frame. We got a doji here in the S&P monthly time frame that gave us the sell-off, a candle of indecision, had a failed breakout in the daily time frame. So again, still got this bottoming tail in the monthly time frame. Be aware of that. See how we close the month out. Early in May, we have the Fed meeting 2 weeks from right now. Now, the bullish count says that no, we've had an ABC move. This is wave 4, and we're about to, get wave 5 here. We're starting wave 5, and again, our 200-period moving average is down here. We're bouncing off horizontal support. We've had over 13% rally, over 16% on the NASDAQ. Then we got this pullback. A record rally on the S&P 500 at a 9.5% move in one day. Day that Trump, on the 9th of April, that paused the reciprocal tariffs the day of the launch and dropped it down to a 10% across the board rate. And negotiations happened, and he did that for 90 days. If we can establish a higher low here, again, going to be looking to see if this plays out where we get higher highs. We cannot get another push lower. It's likely you have a 3-leg push down, and you're going to get new highs. And this whole thing being primary wave 5, primary wave 4 completed at the 2022 low, and you've got those 5 intermediate waves that are developing. Intermediate wave 4 just completing. Now going to get intermediate wave 5 to complete. Primary wave 5, the circle there, the 5 circled, that will complete the cycle top. And again, that could take us on into the summer or into the fall. You could see a rally on into July, August, September. You could see a rally for the next 3 to 5 months or something like that as we get the final phase of the blowout top. I think that this is very likely. The yield curve, credit markets are suggesting that's likely going to be the case. Talked about that at great length in detail. Stochastics turning back up. Again, I think eventually you'll see MACD and the RSI here in the weekly time frame recover. I think the RSI will end up pushing up and getting a lower high and forming an even larger divergence. And that will create a massive amount of complacency. Our sentiment that we have right now will go away.